that this game had a ton of localization changes.
Our approach to the series over time has kind of evolved, and this was kind of the primordial point, if you will.
Now, back then, really not too many people cared about the Japanese culture, and I think the company was afraid that if we kept everything intact in Japanese, background, characters, whatnot, then people would not associate with the game that well. So what they did was change the name of the town, change the character names, of course, change their portraits. One guy in particular, he turned from a Japanese guy to an African American. Quite interesting. But the thing is, nowadays, with all these people right here at Anime Expo, I'm sure that a lot of you are having very heavy interest in Japanese culture. We really don't feel too much of a necessity to change too much. So since then, we've tried to keep the game localization, well, I won't say minimum, but I say closer to the true form as possible. And then next comes Persona 2, Eternal Punishment. Now, this is the first SMT-related title that I worked on. I was one of the translators. And there was a debate internally about whether to do Innocent Sin or not. But it kind of relates to what I talked to you guys earlier about people not having that strong of an understanding of the Japanese culture. And since Innocent Sin revolved around high school, I think that was one of the reasons that could have kind of pushed it. Another big thing was the thing about Hitler and the Nazis. And especially, there was the swastika mark pretty much like everywhere, like on enemy face and whatnot. And we really didn't feel comfortable, releasing this title for those kind of reasons. And another thing is, after we tried out Eternal Punishment on our own before we started on the localization, we realized that Atlus Japan put a lot of effort into adding the story brief, I guess, of Innocent Sin into Eternal Punishment, that it wasn't too bad of a hassle for people to learn what was going on before this title.
Yeah, you could still kind of get the gist of it.
And then also this title, I believe, was the first US SMT title with voice acting. Mm-hmm. And moving on to Nocturne. We didn't publish SMT1, we didn't publish SMT2, but we were very confident that in this title that we decided to make this our first very strong SMT title to hit the US.
It was one of the first mainland to actually carry the name and begin the brand in the US.
As I'll say most of you know, there was the first Nocturne, and then later on Atlus Japan released the Maniacs version. We decided to wait on the Maniacs version because there were a ton of things added in it. A lot of new characters. Some of the characters called Fiends, the tough bosses in this game, were actually cameo from SMT2.
Yeah, from 2. They returned those from 2, and then they added a bunch more, so it became this whole difficult side quest, sub-quest with the whole Labyrinth of Malo thing.
And in addition...
Oh, what else? Oh, yeah. And there was, of course, a special guest character in Maniacs. Who here has heard of Dante? Okay. Yeah, no, I guess not too many of you. But he was really cool. And he came to SMT Maniacs with all of his signature moves intact. So that was a nice bonus for people who do know him, which is something new.
There were a couple of things that were very unique to this title. The first thing is how the main character, the Demi-Fiend, could be customized to your liking. At least for the first 2 games, SMT 1 and 2, there was no such options for the players, so I think it was a very, very interesting effort on Atlus Japan's side. And of course, the other thing is the the famous or infamous press-turn battle system. It started with this game where you could exploit the enemy's weakness, but the enemies could exploit yours as well. It added a lot of strategy element as well as excitement or maybe frustration for some people.
How many here have died because the enemy took all your turns on a surprise attack? Yeah, pretty much everyone.
And lastly, this title, I want to say, was the very first title that Atlus USA did with a mature rating.
Yeah.
Well, you guys will understand why it had a mature rating, with all the talk about, God and Lucifer and whatnot. But we really wanted to keep everything intact in this title. By removing even like a tiny little bit of it, we believed that it took away a ton of, I should say, definitely gameplay, but also the game's value. So in order to keep everything in there, we had to go with them.
And it's been that way ever since.
Okay, and then here comes Digital Devil Saga. Now this game, it was a new offshoot. Of course, it only had two, just DDS 1 and 2 in there, but the storyline itself was of an epic proportion, like in the other SMT titles. But instead of having branching paths, this one pretty much had one straight storyline with one single ending. The big thing about this game was that the main characters and actually all the enemies you fought against, if you think about it, they were really like man versus man as opposed to like man versus demons or animals or whatnot. This game took a lot of reference to the Buddhist and Hindu religions, and the thing about karma was the core of the game, and the thing about man killing each other, man versus man, that really signified that karma portion.
This was also the first Shin Megami Tensei with a major voice acting portion, and we have one of the main voice actors here today. Mr. Yuri Lowenthal did the main character, who didn't have very much to do in the first game. The SMT protagonists being silent as they are, but in the second game he had a few more roles. If he wants to talk about serfs other selves.
Yeah, I remember going in and the director saying, okay, you've got and it was the first game that I've ever worked on for Atlus, and he goes, okay, now you've got the main character. I was like, yes! He doesn't really talk, though. What am I doing here? There's this really sort of, gut-ripping scream at the beginning that we're going to make you do over and over again until we get it horrifying enough. But besides that, you really don't have any lines, per se. I was excited in the follow-up in DDS2 to be able to actually talk, which is kind of exciting. But I remember even just in that first game, he goes, okay, well, this is what the game looks like, and you showed some of the cutscenes, transformation stuff, and I was like, this is actually going to get released. Show this stuff. Now, who are these are the bad guys, who are the good guys? No, those are the good guys. Awesome. So it was exciting to get into, and then luckily in the second game I had a little more, to sink my teeth into. But it's really cool.
Yeah, Yuri's character, Surf, was very interesting in the fact that there was the role of Surf himself. There was the original Surf, should I call, the basis from where the character originated. And also another character called Schrödinger, the cat, that really came from the future really to guide him in the present. And you really had to do all those three different roles, changing all the voices and whatnot.
So it's always really fun to get something like that when you really get to switch it up, because it forces you to really create very different characters. Because I know you guys will call it out. You'll call us on something like that. Oh, he sounds exactly like the other dude in the game. So it really makes us work. So it was